Do you ever lose a fight and think, I should have won that? That's because you're fighting the wrong way. Let me show you how to win 99% of the fights you take. The first step to winning more fights is figuring out exactly what you're doing wrong. Not just, I need better aim. Be specific. Ask yourself, do I choke edits under pressure? Do I panic when I get boxed? Do I get the first shot? Do I lose track of my opponent? Do I overbuild? To find out what your biggest weakness is, you should try playing 20 ranked games and taking notes as of why you died. You should also VOD review your own tournament games or just fights where you know you made mistakes. Once you find your weaknesses, rank them from small to big. Focus all your practice on fixing them one by one. That's how pros improve fast. They isolate their problems and fix them one by one. You don't have to be the best at everything. Pick one small thing, get better at it, and move on to the next. Just keep in mind that depending on the size of the weakness, this can take weeks to months before you get the skill to a high enough level. The first shot decides most fights. Whoever hits first usually wins. You should always be the first one to deal damage in a fight. This increases your chance of winning drastically. Here's how you do it. Have awareness of your opponent and try to sneak an AR beam when starting a fight. Use good angles and peeks to get the first shot off when box fighting, or hit pre-fires when being aggressed on. The best way to practice fighting and getting good at peeks, getting the first shot, and generally improving at the fundamentals is 1v1s against better players, because they'll force you to improve and learn from your mistakes. One mistake and you get punished for it. If you consistently get the first shot, you control the pace of the fight, and that's how you win. One of the biggest mistakes average players make is taking every fight. You should only fight when the odds are in your favor. Ask yourself before pushing, do I have better mats? Do I have more health? Do I have the damage advantage? Do I have the highest chance of winning this fight? If not, it's okay to disengage. Good players know when to back off and wait for a better moment. Winning fights isn't about looking flashy, it's about giving yourself the best odds of winning. Watch fights and see if you gave yourself the best odds of winning, even if you win or lose. It's also important to realize when you had a good fight and had the best chance at winning. But sometimes, even if you lose the fight, you might have done the best play. So think about how you played it and find out who had the best chance and best odds of winning and why. Also, taking big risks isn't always a bad play. You have probably heard that jumping in a box and taking a 50-50 is bad, but this is not always the truth. Let's say you have a damage advantage. Jumping in the box will 99% of the time result in you winning and ending the fight quickly. And ending the fight quickly is one of the biggest differences between a pro fighter and an okay fighter. Movement is one of the most underrated ways to win fights. Even players with slower mechanics like Fortnite show that good movement can beat aim or fast edits. Good movement makes it harder for opponents to hit you. You control the pace of the fight, and you can use it to bait shots and punish mistakes. Movement isn't about being flashy. It's about making fights easier and forcing your opponents to make mistakes. Even without perfect mechanics, strong movement alone can help win fights. For example, you can use movement to carry momentum, which will help you apply pressure and keep your opponent on their toes.
When the other guy wasn't holding his wall, because you notice here, this guy's busy editing out. Like, he's leaving because this cone isn't his. So basically, as soon as he's gotten the wall, freshly placed, he pumps pistols to get straight in, and then bang. And he's dead.
This one's simple, but it's one of the biggest game changers. Always keep your crosshair at head level. When you're moving, when you're editing, and when you're entering a box, your crosshair should already be where the enemy's head will be. That way, when you shoot, you're already lined up for a headshot. This will help your aim drastically and make it 100 times easier to hit a max pump. Tempo switching. You need to be good at tempo switching. What I mean by this is switching between playing aggressively and defensively. When playing defensively, always look for counter damage. When playing aggressively, don't let the opponent have time to pop heals. Always be on their walls and force them into making a mistake. When you're fighting, you should always have awareness of your opponent. You should always know where your opponent is 100% of the time. If you lose him, stop and take some time to figure out where he is. Always look at him when you're fighting. Track him through builds and don't let them sneak on you. Something I've personally struggled with, and it was one of my friends, which makes really good Fortnite improvement videos, Marin TM, actually pointed this out to me, is that I often make fights way harder than they need to be. And every time I play against him, he tells me the same thing.
You're making fights way harder than they need to be. You're doing way too much EG, just make the fights as easy as possible.
And honestly, that advice has changed the way I fight. You don't need to make every kill flashy. To be a good fighter, you should always focus on finding the simplest, easiest, and quickest way to eliminate your opponent. A good fighter isn't the one who hits the best clips, it's the one who wins the most fights, especially against good players. To constantly win fights in Fortnite, you need to master key fundamentals, not just aim or mechanics. Start by identifying your specific weakness through VOD reviewing and focus on fixing them one at a time. Always get the first shot, since it decides most fights, and practice this through 1v1s against better players. Only taking fights when the odds are in your favor. Mats, health, damage advantage, and positioning matter more than being mechanical. Use good movement, sliding, sprinting, and baiting the opponent to make yourself harder to hit and control the pace. Keep your crosshair at head level at all times to easily hit max damage shots. Learn to switch between aggressive and defensive tempo depending on the situation, and maintain constant awareness of your opponent's position. Finally, don't overcomplicate fights. Choose the simplest, safest, and quickest way to secure the elimination. Mastering these fundamentals will turn you into a top tier fighter.